Okay, I think we are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to make sure everyone can hear us, or if someone is online, if they would give us thumbs up that the volume is on, since Jeff is not here today. He is not feeling well. Chemo accumulated, so the side effects are kicking in. He will be fine, obviously, but if you have gone through chemo or know someone who has gone through chemo, you know how that works. When Hader said that Jeff picks and chooses where he feels good or bad, well, he decided to feel apparently bad on Christmas Day because he did not get out of bed. And, but we know he'll be fine. It's just part of the journey to full healing for him, and that's what we have to deal with. I doubt he will be even watching online, but that's why I'm here. And if I'm here, you know who's going to do the talking. It's going to be you, because I just don't like to talk too much. Anyway, I hope everyone had a great Christmas. We did. It was, again, very quiet, very easy, but we are thankful for this Christmas season, regardless, for our friends and family that fed us, so I didn't have to cook, and for the that Jeff can get the help he needs to get healed up, and hopefully 26th will be the year where we will finish all this cancer nonsense and won't have to do it again, but we'll just take one day at a time. And you will see him in the new year, hopefully feeling better. Anyway, who is here and would like to say something or share how was your Christmas or what you're thankful for, or any headlines of last week? It's been kind of quiet.
Well, I'm just thankful that lady won.
You won. Yes. That was
a
actually
good thing.
Very
Good
exciting. It was little nerve-wracking there for a few hours for us. The Democrats were hitting it from every angle that I could see and tell. We actually got some phone calls from random people. We actually got a phone call from a poll worker that I do not know and I've never met, and they were just concerned about a lot of people doing write-ins. So
they got a third of the vote.
Right. So at the end of the day, we did what we did for election day. We did mass text messages. We did emails. Our precinct people worked their precincts that were in those districts. So, you get phone calls and people are concerned and they're messaging you, but what you can do at that time, right? You may send another text reminder or another email reminder, but
well, the sad thing is it ended up being 7.4% turnout.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, that means that the write-ins got basically 2% of the vote. That's still
Yeah.
do you have YouTube there?
My what?
YouTube. Yeah, my phone is.
The good thing is, Olga, that
Talk too much.
people
Anyway.
were concerned about it, so maybe this will carry over into the primaries. Because they're not that far away, and if we can keep that concern level up there, maybe we'll get more interest in the primaries.
Ours is 74 days in North Carolina. Our primary is March 3rd. And it's been an interesting week.
It has.
Yeah, there's a guy named Watley who's running for Senate.
I've heard his name. Yeah.
Well, they had a big supposed rally Friday night in Rocky Mount with President Trump there.
I did hear about that, yeah.
And they drew somewhere between 500 and 600 people total.
Where did they meet in Rocky Mount? We used to live there.
I think it's about a 4,000, 4,500 seat. It's an event venue that they built.
Sure
I mean, it's host basketball, but I had a friend that was down there paying attention, and he said the curtain behind the stage, they had moved it almost all the way up to the front of the room.
to make it look like more people had been there.
Well, the thing was, none of the broadcast, even Rav, ever showed a crowd thing because there was no crowd.
Huh.
There were no people lining the roads coming in, which is, I'm sure, I would be certain, I can't say I'm sure, but I would be certain that President Trump was probably rather underwhelmed that there was
No one
nobody.
there.
I mean, he's used to going in and saying, well, we got 10,000 people in the building. There's another 8,000 watching Jumbotrons outside.
Right.
And I was told they had 2 Jumbotrons set up outside. They never even turned on because they had no people.
Yeah, having lived there, I can understand that. I do. I'm not surprised at all. Because that basically you've got tobacco farmers, hog farmers, and peanut farmers, and railroad farmers. That's it. That's what constitutes Rocky.
But it was rather underwhelming. And then in his 2 minutes he got on stage, Mr. Watley even underwhelmed more. So we're very excited in the Don Brown campaign about there's more blowback against Watley than there was against Tillis. And none of us thought that could happen.
Yeah, really.
I saw some. Anyway, I don't remember the name. There was someone in North Carolina I follow that it's not happy with Watley. He made rather some ugly comments, and he's the candidate for something himself. But anyway, it's interesting to watch.
Well, his nickname now is either Little Tillis or Tillis 2.0. And I mean, that's everywhere.
Interesting. So that rally was when
Last Friday night.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be, it was very symbolic because filing closed at noon on Friday.
Okay.
So it was the first evening after filing closed. And that's why they scheduled it for the president to come in and do all that. Like I said, 500 to 600 people.
Wow. Interesting. So that was Friday. What else happened last week? So the election here, what we talk about in case someone missed it. So it was the 23rd. This
2 days before Christmas.
2 days before Christmas. It was, turnout like I think 7%, which is really, really sad. But it was exciting to show the Democrats that, the seats belong to us, to the Republicans, and they stood no chance. But at the same time, I don't want to give them credit, but it was a lot of write-ins.
Yeah.
It was a lot of write-ins for the day before Christmas or before Christmas Eve.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, how did somebody doing an election calendar end up with an election 2 days before Christmas?
Well, you know how that works. In my opinion, it was the resignations triggers elections. So South Carolina election laws, I don't know on the top of my head the number of days you take, but once the resignation is submitted and accepted, that's what triggered the election date. And that calendar is strict and has to be followed by South Carolina election law. So it's not like election commission picked the date
Sounds to me like
on the 23rd
some work on that.
that they're choosing to work on 2 days before Christmas. The date was set by the kind of people that chose to submit resignation on a certain date. What we believe happened, maybe the establishment, Lee Bright has a history of winning primaries and losing in runoffs. Winning primaries, going into the runoff, and then losing runoff. We have seen that happen to him. So we believe that maybe the establishment, decided to convince the former candidates or the outgoing candidates to submit resignations to trigger the runoff election for general election day, to put Lee Bright even at more risk of not getting elected with more people coming to the polls, because it is all about turnout, because that is when the runoff for the primaries was. It was on November 4th, which was the election day. And then from that, there is, that's how followed the general election and all. Technically, the certification of the election was supposed to happen on Christmas Day. And that is what our election commission, Conway Belanger, said, I'm not making my people come on Christmas Day. They came in actually the day after election, on Christmas Eve. They did certification at 11, and they were done.
Well, fortunately, the victory spread was large enough. They didn't have to get into certifying each individual write-in.
Correct.
Because that would have been a nightmare right before Christmas.
Correct.
Yeah.
If it was close.
Yes, it was not close enough for them to have to do
You
it.
got to believe some of those write-in candidates, were not, votes were not exactly proper, I would say.
Were they all for the same person?
Well, we don't have that data, so, but they did, the state election commission sent a request immediately for certain precincts to be audited. So they were going through the audit right away. I'm pretty sure yours was one of them on the list.
Well, that won't be too hard, will it?
we want to talk about this too. So we were, our, wonderful Terry here might be maybe in a hot seat currently, because in Terry's precinct,
How
Way
many
to go.
people did you have come in?
the Democrats
many?
actually won 6-4.
Oh, what,
Terry.
6-4.
Ten
There were 6 write-ins versus 4 votes.
Oh.
So Terry is at a hot seat because the Democrats are taking over Silver
I
Mill.
keep telling everybody I live in a very democratic area with all 6 of them.
We were kind of joking, but
They vote by Republicans. I can't get out to vote. I told everybody, go vote, go vote.
technically
Democrats, but they vote.
They vote.
they went out and voted. Jeff's counterpart was at the election commission when we were there on Tuesday night. It was kind of interesting because I didn't even know she was the new counterpart.
Yeah, I wouldn't have recognized her.
I knew the former chair, but I forgot they had they switched. The Democrats, Republicans in Greenville County, they used to have the reorg and conventions in different
Every
years,
other year, yeah.
and somehow they switched it. We all had it this
The
year.
Democrats switched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to our year.
So they had their convention this year as well. They have a new chair. I will not tell you her name. I don't remember.
Where'd they have their convention at? Do we even know?
Yes, I not watched it, but I saw pictures. I took a note where it was, but they don't need
A space like we do.
It was in a school somewhere. It was in a school somewhere.
A school.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Figure back home to Joe's bar or something.
Yes. So that was that. And the other highlights of last week, I think the biggest highlights on the national level, right?
Mhm.
It will be part of the history when, for trivia questions, I guess, what president extended the federal holiday
Yeah.
for Christmas. Obviously, I don't know, has that been done before, that the 24th and 26th were proclaimed as federal holiday for at least the federal employees. So I think that was big for everyone.
What does everyone think of that?
Being the fact that the 24th has always been a federal holiday, 24th, 25th, making the 26th a federal holiday for this year really is a no-brainer because you're going to bring these people into work one day. They're not going to do anything.
Mhm.
They're too busy freaking still living off the hangover from the Christmas party. the day of that.
I wish corporations would get that idea.
No,
Yeah,
no,
because it's down 3 days. That'd be awesome.
you're gonna work Christmas Day too.
But it's
They probably would try that.
they
They
really,
will.
they would, they're not going to get any real work out of those federal employees on that day anyway. So you go ahead and give them an extra day on the Friday. Now, they may
What
do
day,
that.
what day
Maybe
do
that's
you
what they-
get work out of federal?
That's
See?
true.
Now, it's like-
That's true. Monday's about the only day you get work out of them. Because they're still,
Monday.
well, no, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, because Monday they're still hung over from the weekend, most of them. And they're like,
Sorry,
oh,
that's
here, Monday.
It's like you never buy a car made on Monday or Friday.
Right.
Or just stay late if there was work. That's what we did.
Well, I was,
It's a joke. If you pick the day to build, buy a car, you have to build it, you want it on Wednesday.
I was joking with Jeff. I don't know how I feel about it other than back home growing up, Christmas Eve, and the 26th, today is the second day of Christmas. No one is working. Everyone goes to church. It's just like Christmas Day. It's just the second day of Christmas. So that's how I grew up. So to me, it just feels like, feels familiar.
It's supposed to be
I,
closed on Christmas.
Joke to Jeff that maybe next thing we'll see it's election happening on Sundays because that's how Poland does it.
Go after church.
Yeah,
I go
church.
after church and they happen at schools. So schools are closed on Sunday. There is no issues with polling places and locations. You just go to your closest elementary school and everyone gets to vote and the children get
And they use
introduced to
paper planes too. I mean, paper.
paper ballots,
ballots.
yes. And children get introduced to the process early because it's a family affair. You go from church to the polling place, and it's kind of neat.
This is
I agree.
Hi, this is how it's done in Germany as well. And the highest holy day is Christmas Eve.
Yes.
And then you have the first Christmas Day, which is the 25th, and then the second, which is today.
Correct.
The 26th.
Correct.
Yeah, even though Europe is fast becoming a Islamic nation. Poland.
Well, luckily
Poland.
not Poland, but
And Hungary.
but
And there are various places.
Well, most of the former Soviet bloc have very strong immigration requirements,
Yeah, right.
and it's sad
It
to
is
see.
paying off.
Well, yes, because it's sad to see what's happening in Western Europe.
It is very sad.
I was reading something Monday or Tuesday. They were approaching 100 Christmas markets that were not going to happen
Right,
Wow.
right.
because they were concerned about
The violence and stuff.
And that used to be what everybody looked forward
Forward
to.
to.
correct. Well, and they say it's even worse in certain areas of, particularly France, and Spain, that even the small town markets they don't even set them up anymore.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you had situations where there have been followers of Allah who have decided to drive vehicles into the middle of a Christmas market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what was so wonderful about what President Trump did last night.
What did he do?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
You haven't- no,
I had to go to bed early. I had to
They
get
did.
up.
They did a major strike against ISIS that's been killing
Oh,
Christians.
yeah, I heard you guys
in
talking about
Nigeria.
that today. Yes, in Nigeria, yes.
I mean, it was major. Matter of fact, to the point that Secretary of War
Uh-huh.
said this yesterday evening or this morning that he hoped they got the message, but if they didn't, he would make sure and send them another one.
See, I normally listen to Tara, but she has a guest speaker on that I just couldn't listen today. As I did not listen Wednesday, so I'm a little out of touch.
So we did it yesterday, Christmas Day.
I didn't even know he did it.
Yesterday evening.
I did not listen.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris, who you talking about? You're talking about the bombing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yesterday evening, Christmas evening,
Oh, sorry.
That
Wow.
was pretty.
and the left was going crazy saying,
I can only
I can't believe he did this on Christmas. And
I
it's
didn't
like,
think they liked Christmas.
I was going to say they were trying to cancel it last
Yeah.
week, so
Oh, yes.
It depends upon moments,
Oh,
which medicine
what?
can they
Oh, got it.
And now they're against it, now they're for it. And
Next week they'll be
but
against it
see,
again.
but when you have no basic values or principles,
Yeah.
then it fluctuates very quickly.
This is the way the Democrats
evaluate what they're gonna decide on.
And that is
The
true.
wind's blowing from the left today, we're gonna go with what the left tells us.
Or it's the opposite of
Well,
what
actually,
What we're doing,
some
yeah.
it's not based on reason, it's based on person. The
Mm.
fact that Trump did it is
Is why.
is
Yes,
why. If
you're
it
right.
had not- if it had been, the chairman of China that did it, they'd be delighted.
Oh, of course.
Because he represents the people, therefore it's okay. Trump represents tyranny, therefore it's evil. There is a method to their madness. And if
And
you
then
understand,
it's-
if you understand that,
There's a
if you
basis
understand
for
that, then everything makes sense because
Yes.
reality is flexible. Reality doesn't matter. It's all about who you hate and who you love.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true.
Another I saw, and that just came in some headlines that I was looking at. I think yesterday the Honduras elections were finally announced, and
Trump's
Um,
boy won.
Trump's pick won, which is apparently a great thing too. They went from I think it was a female president before, very leftist, to now a conservative president in Honduras, which
Well,
It's great.
the new Monroe Doctrine is working, and that is that
We're gonna
Trump
take our
has
history.
made and a lot of people don't seem to understand it, but we had gotten to the point where, particularly with the communist Chinese, that were moving into and taking over major areas in our hemisphere.
Yep.
I mean, that's just like somebody says, I can't believe they're seizing these oil tankers. I said, I hope they seize the whole fleet.
Yeah, because they're all under sanctions anyway.
Sanctions,
So
yeah.
oranges, most of them are flying or traveling under false flags.
Yep.
Yep.
To try to protect themselves. Correct.
That's
So
one.
you board them, you check your documents. Oh, well, you're not a tanker from that country. You're actually a Venezuelan tanker. Oh, guess what? We're gonna seize you. We're gonna
And-
take you away.
and then not
It's
just
our oil
finding-
any day. We put
finding-
the refined, we put the mill, the drills there.
And they're finding children on these tankers as well. They're trafficking children. At which point, since they're in international waters, I think you should have immediate hangings.
You think what?
Immediate hanging.
I mean,
But then again, I'm good with what they're doing with the narco boats, and that's just blowing them out of the water. I watched somebody whining and crying about that.
This is what I was saying, Franklin. I'm like,
Immediately hanging.
it's typical doctrine in the military. You hit it till it's no longer there. So,
Yeah.
okay, we disabled it, but it's still there. It's still there.
Which means the payload is still there. You darn well bet.
We didn't finish the job. Okay, hit it again. I'm like, but it's funny that we have probably the biggest task force has ever been assembled in the Caribbean,
In the Western Hemisphere.
in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Atlantic right now, or Western Atlantic right now. And of course, the leftists are all going apes because they're like, oh, this is tyranny, this is overuse of power, blah, blah. No, it's not. We are defending, we are doing what the military is always supposed to have done, which is protect the homeland. And you got these narco boats that are bringing in drugs to kill Americans. Because like I said, over 100,000 people have died from fentanyl in just last year. That's 100,000 murders that they've committed that nobody got punished for. So how do you punish them? You start blowing their boats out of the water. We should have started this when we started the war on drugs in the 80s. We should have started blowing up the boats then.
It was actually in the late 60s.
Well, the actual, when Reagan became president, he had his big war on drugs. Just the whole don't just say no stuff. No, that don't work.
Well, the greatest thing
You got to go to the source, and you got to eliminate the source.
we need to understand, the greatest accomplishment of the war on drugs is we have built the largest single organized crime syndicate in the history of the world.
And we also have built the biggest institution for housing said criminals, because we now have the biggest prison system in the world. We have more incarcerated people per capita than any other country in the world. Why? Because we coddle them by giving them, oh, here you go, we're gonna give you 3 squares and a cot, and we're gonna let you get a college degree, and we're taxpayers gonna pay for it. You've never paid a dime to pay off your debts. So
So that's why they need to go back to making little rocks out of big rocks.
put it back on the chain. Put it back on the chain, gang. We got plenty of roads to do fixed.
Hard work all day long, and if you want to improve your education, you do it like all the free people that don't violate the law, you do it at night after you work all day.
Listen,
What
you
a
know,
concept.
Well, that's at least up to who
I
I need to pay
think
for.
that there
I got chastised for that by one of our representatives in the state house.
Ooh,
Interesting.
here in Greenville, I mean,
Oh, I gotta know who my enemy is when I get there.
No, because
You know, I
Irene,
think that there are some huge criminals, if we look up and not down, there are huge criminals that are getting away with murder and getting let out of prison, drug dealers. And so, yeah, I think the people on the bottom, if they don't belong to the United States, they need to leave or to be deported. But there is so much criminal activity going on, and a lot of it is taking place on the top. I hate to say it, but it's really true. And that gets covered up because there's so much going on the bottom. But, you know, the fentanyl, is that not made in Chinese labs in Canada? So we're not bombing
Everywhere, and
China.
Mexico.
We're bombing
They-
Venezuela, well, we're not bombing it, we're bombing their boats. But
Well,
I
see,
really mean the
Venice-
big,
The thing about fentanyl is a combination of ingredients that are all transported to Venezuela, Colombia, to Mexico, to Canada, and all these places where it's put together. And then it's mixed in with the drugs that they transport to the United States.
and the ingredients come from,
All the, well, majority of the ingredients come from China. The ingredients.
so the ingredients.
But it boils down to the same token, like back when we went to a war in Iraq, that they were talking about, well, there's no proof of weapons of mass production. Or
Mass
mass destruction.
It was.
And I turned around and explained it to one person, because I was over there and I was asked when I came back how I felt about it. I said, just to show you something, just to prove to you something that's possible. Says, just because he didn't have the stockpiles that we were told, that the intelligence that he had the ability to make them. I can go to the drugstore and to the pharmacy, drugstore, and hardware store and get all the ingredients I need to make mustard gas.
Okay, he actually did have WMDs.
He had
Well, the thing was, they moved most of them to Syria.
Well, it's still to the level that
When my son was there for Iraqi freedom,
Right after.
the reporter from the Fayetteville Observer was embedded with them, and he was reporting on the caches of pesticide they were finding, enough to last 100 years.
There's nothing in the desert.
That pesticide itself is a WMD.
Yep.
That pesticide will kill us, not just insects, they will kill us. It works the same way. It disrupts the nervous system, that shuts you down. He had, the US had to bury them because they had no way of destroying that much pesticide. So it's still there.
This is
Even with-
actually a good bridge to talk about what I wanted to talk about in regards to criminals. So a side project I have is I want to be able to let the community know of violent illegals that are released into our community. And this week I got in touch with the jail administrator, Scotty Bodie-Ford. I actually wanted to speak to the county commissioner, but he punted me to Scotty.
of course.
It's actually, I spoke with him at length, but I think he's a really good contact for our club because he was very open and he said I could ask him any follow-up questions. So ultimately what I wanted to get from Scotty was some public statistics that we could put out to people in the community of are we releasing murderers? Are we releasing people who are thieves?
Rapists,
Right. And
Violent offenders. Any violence, right.
any violence. They don't have public statistics, and I'm still going through other channels to find that, but I thought a few things you guys would want to know, which are really interesting. So I'm sure you all have heard of the ICE detainers. They're administrative holds, they're not warrants. And ICE apparently does pick up 85 to 95% of these illegals, that whatever their crime is. So that's still a high percentage. But it certainly doesn't, it shouldn't give you any comfort, because, and I thought this was interesting that Scotty told me, is first of all, ICE doesn't work on the weekends unless it's somebody who's really bad, has really bad charges against them. They'll come and pick them up. But there must be some really bad actors that go to the county jail that are illegal, because obviously there's not enough ICE agents. And even with the big beautiful bill, they're increasing it to like 10,000 ICE agents. There's just not enough of them to pick everyone up. So let's say there's somebody who's really bad, has terrible charges against them. Scotty ends up calling a supervisor at ICE to pick up this person as a kind of a final check, so to speak. But this certainly left me uneasy about who's in our community and who's being released. And it just takes one person like a Lincoln Riley to happen. And I think we're, including myself, we're all guilty of like, oh, 1 minute we'll say, oh, that's terrible, and then 5 minutes we're on to the next problem. But I still want to pursue this, because what I think is ultimately going to happen in our country, I'm sure all of you have heard of Megan's Law. So it's a federal law that alerts communities of bad people. We're probably going to have to have something like that. Hopefully not on a federal level, because that's going to create like bigger government. That's going to cost a lot of money. But it costs about $17,000 to deport each illegal. We're not going to get 15 million out of them out of the country. But I think we're going to have to, I want to create something locally to give our residents some sort of knowledge of what's going on so they can be aware. But I think we're probably going to be moving, probably in a couple of years, to something like a Megan's Law for illegals, because we just can't have this happen again. There's so many instances of a Lincoln Riley. It just keeps on happening.
Well, y'all did something in South Carolina this year that is probably the biggest single thing now in 29 states. Unfortunately, we haven't yet, and that's constitutional carry.
Mhm.
Because if people don't know who will have a gun, and there's no way to track down whether or not they have a concealed carry permit. I mean, I don't have a concealed carry permit because my sheriff told me not to get one. He said that's just another list you don't need to have your name on. And that's from the ultimate law enforcement officer in my county.
Yeah.
No, I'm very fortunate. I have a true constitutional sheriff. And he is actually one of the 700, I think they said, that is a full 287G participant.
You see what happened with who we thought it was our constitutional sheriff in neighboring county of Spartanburg.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think everybody did.
Well, the thing about it, when we talk about we can't deport that many people, people are blind to one major thing. The United States military has a whole lot of cargo assets.
Mm.
They can carry anywhere, depending on their frame, on C-130, 180 people in one. C-17 will carry 260. C-5 will carry over 500. You start using the fleet, which flies every day for practice any damn way, which a lot of times those planes are flying empty. They go up, they fly for 8 hours, and then they come back to make tanks for training purposes. Make these training flights, make them training flights. But
That
also
deliver
deportation
somewhere outside
flights.
somewhere outside of the country.
Yep, and turn around and to incarcerate them. Well, we don't have the space. Yes, you do. We have plenty of military reservations where you can put up a camp compound inside the perimeter of it. That way you have double concertina wire, and you can keep them there until you're ready to ship them off. Okay. It is a constant BS lie to say we can't do this, we can't do it. This country can do anything we want to do. We just have to finally get up off of our ass and say we are going to do it. But people are so, well, we can't use the military for this. We can't use, yes, the hell you can't. The only reason they say we can't use the military is because they don't want the military force to be brought in to straighten out problems and allow these Democratic bastion blue strongholds who will allow the unlawfulness to continue. President Trump is doing the right thing by sending the Guard in.
Wasn't it a complaint that it wasn't like first class? They weren't getting sent back in nice enough.
Yeah, that's initially, that was initially the bad part was that they're not getting good accommodations on the way back. I flew 26 hours on a 130 from the United States to the Middle East. You think that's a nice ride for 26 hours? Hell no.
For you to do that, but
It's fine for me.
And here's the thing, what Megan is pointing out is the tip of the iceberg of what illegal immigration is doing to this country. We are seeing the criminal prosecution of some. But the reality is that those that are here that are not committing other crimes, additional crimes, because they've already broken law, they are stealing work from citizens and people who are
And
here
housing,
legally.
and
Housing,
social services,
and social services.
medical,
And what that is doing is deterring cost.
Right.
There was an article I read this week, and it said that illegal immigrants were one of the largest driving forces of what's happened to medical costs in the country. Because they show up in the emergency room, which is the most expensive operating part of every hospital. And the sad part of it is I had a friend that had to go to the emergency room with his daughter 2 weeks ago. And they sat for 7 hours before they got to be seen. And this is a citizen and his daughter. And he says they had 4 people working in the triage,
Right.
speaking Spanish.
We were recently told by a local pharmacist how pharmacists that works in hospital setting, not retail, and how many illegals they have to pay for. She didn't go into details, but she just said it's.
Well,
She's saying,
and they say it's illegal for a hospital to detain somebody. No, see that's I think what I should be doing. They should be parking in every emergency room.
Yeah.
And if they go in and they're an illegal invader, get them treated, take them straight out of the country. I mean,
Treat them, but then take right out of it.
yes, that's what
Treat
I'm saying.
them and get rid of them.
But see, if you do that a couple of dozen times, all of a sudden the community will quit showing up at the emergency room. You know, there's certain human nature things that we seem to not understand still exist.
My wife attested to this when she was working at a public school in New York City.
Heaven forbid.
The reality is that when something happened and the child shows evidence of abuse, and there's an investigation started, questions just asked, the kid and the rest of the family disappear.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's just, so there's an argument going on and
It's called survival. They move on to where they're unknown.
Yes, but the problem is the child is still going to be abused. That's
There's
the
no
thing.
question. I'm just saying the technique is
Oh, yeah.
survival.
now, did everybody see the story this week that they're going to be ending all federal benefits to undocumented?
That's what happened.
Yes.
And well, we're having the discussion in my state that if the state administers it, which most people don't understand, every major federal program in the country is administered by the state. And I've got a group of our legislators that are saying we're going to get it done in legislation that if it's administered by the state, we do not have to provide services to illegal invaders. And I'm getting more and more. I'm so proud. I'm getting more and more of my guys that are referring to them now as illegal invaders. There's
That is a good.
It's the constitutional way to describe it.
Yeah, because that's what they are.
Because the violation of the Constitution is that the federal government is required to protect the individual states from invasion.
Yes.
And see, they try to make it all nice and sweet and wonderful. And You know, if I hear undocumented person, no, I'm sorry, it's illegally later. There's no such thing as an undocumented person.
Because that means it's like, how they just fall out of the sky.
Still being
So speaking of all of that, since we're at the end of the year, obviously, what would be the headline that you would want to see in 2026, whether it's local politics or national? Like the headline meaning something to accomplish.
Election integrity. We don't have election integrity and.
But what would you want to
Why
see?
we fixed all that?
What would I want to see?
Yeah.
The
Sorry.
entry on the machines,
Machines, yeah.
yeah. Paper ballots.
Paper ballots, hand count, and precinct.
Counted. Absolutely.
I've
Results
That's
designed,
the biggest.
I've designed, it could be done in 4 hours.
4 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every precinct, like, put it this way, I'm only worked on it in my state,
Okay.
but we could pay $100 an hour for 3 people as ballot counters,
Yeah, trust
which means they sign a contract that they will be subject to a felony if they violate the contract. But we pay them, and we can't find a precinct that will take more than 4.5 hours in North Carolina to count.
What are the sizes of your precincts?
Largest ones are 6,000.
See,
But-
but doing it precinct level, it speeds the whole process.
No, I agree. That's what I was
Because
wondering,
now-
because I know how big
And
our
then-
precincts
And
are.
then the other piece,
And they're
piece-
smaller than 6,000, so.
Well,
And
some of
the-
them aren't.
Uh,
Some of them aren't.
I think
But
we
that's
have
because-
one close.
close to 6,000, but the rest of them, yeah.
But the other thing is, somebody said, yeah, but remember all the backroom stuff and everything that happened? I says, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there are times we need to use 21st century technology. Right above that counting table in every precinct is a web accessible camera,
Camera.
where if you want to go in and watch ballots
Yeah, I
counted
think so.
at any precinct in the state, you can go into the state web, and I've already worked with my IT guys. And he says, oh gosh, they got the server space to do that already. It's just sitting in a corner somewhere. I mean, it is being done to us like it's being done for a reason.
Yes.
And it's not because it can't be done.
Well, it's not to their advantage if we
Bingo.
go back to that one.
Yes, because they can't do it.
They can't cheat. They can't cheat anymore, right?
And by doing that, you don't even have to pay $100 an hour. You can pay
No,
$50 an hour.
Well, but the
I
whole
know.
point we're making is
Yes.
when you're gonna get somebody to sign off on a contract where they agree that if they get caught doing anything wrong, it is going to be a felony.
Okay.
I'm one. And
make-
guess what?
You make people a lot more, have a lot more integrity when you hold them to that standard and you pay them, because now there's a lot more meat that goes into them.
Now-
Now,
As
if
soon
they're
as you find a
volunteers,
violator, you put them in prison.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the
You
other
make the
thing,
rest believers.
the other big piece of this is we can put this whole program in place, the cameras, the paying people, the paper ballots and everything for half of what we spend annually on maintaining machines.
The machines, exactly.
Absolutely.
It brings me a funny memory to mind. Thinking back, now I'm laughing at it, but when we had the 2023 convention, Greenville GOP convention that the state took over, so we were not we couldn't be in charge
Yeah.
of anything, even though Jeff was finishing his chairmanship. He was supposed to run the convention. They didn't allow us to do anything. And we ended up with the state delegate ballots that were several pages long, because usually if you want to be, and actually it was the state delegate, yeah, I think there is a fee you have to pay, and the
Yes.
state didn't charge anyone, so everyone was just signing up
Right.
because it didn't cost anything, right? So we had ballots that were 10 pages long.
Yeah.
So imagine the time to count these ballots. So it took several days to do it.
3 days.
And
3 days.
Jeff and I were not allowed to count it, of course, but we were allowed to watch. So we were there every day since 7 a.m. until the end of the day, just sitting there and watching the state people and volunteers. We were there, and at night they were locking up the ballots in the room, and I'm like, there's like, how we're going to make sure, this is not being tampered with later. I set up a live stream on my phone and put a tripod in the room, and I wasn't watching it all night, but I had it on live stream all night long, and
You recorded.
no one entered the room. So I'm glad we came up with this idea, and the state didn't oppose. I mean, I'm glad they didn't, but
Well,
But Olga, if they had opposed that, I was ready to offer to spend a couple of hours in the chair and we just rotate people through.
and I think there was actually one security alert from the hotel people that someone was trying to get into that room, like open it, whatever. And I think it was actually a random drunk,
Right.
like went into the wrong door. But they were I think we made even the hotel people very sensitive. Like, this is serious, and we do not want anyone around here until we get here the next morning. So that was fun.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
I'm probably the only one that didn't know this, but Tina Peters, can you explain to me what she did, or whether why she was in jail?
no, but they can't either.
I don't
She asked a question.
There's public record of why she's in jail. What is that?
Something about the.
Does anyone specifically remember what?
Preventing people from doing the vote or something?
She was accused of illegally securing records.
Copying records?
No,
No, just securing them,
she's scaring them.
because the law is they have to, federal election law is you must maintain ballots and all the
So like a
information.
chain of command.
22 for 22 months. And she found out that they were disposing them. So she did something to secure them and was charged with a
So
felony.
they were throwing them away, disposing.
They were,
Correct.
they didn't want a record of that they had
They get rid of
cheated.
the
Yeah.
records, and she cop said they were getting rid of the records, so now they threw her in jail for this.
So
or
she
prison.
illegally seized them,
Supposedly.
basically.
Supposedly.
That's what
what
they
they
got.
charged.
It was a lie. She took them and
Yeah.
Yeah.
got charged for it.
Yeah.
And what kind of sentence is Colorado, right?
9 years, she got 9 years in a maximum security prison. She is a 71-year-old, I believe, Gold Star mother.
Just cancer too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Had several assaults. I mean, it's just,
They've been putting her in solitary.
last time,
So
I think it said
they
15
keep her
days.
there for 9 years? She's really.
That's the
they
intent.
keep her there for 9 years.
That's Colorado for you.
And they can't get her out.
Well, didn't they move it from federal to state? So she
Well,
said
it's
they
a
pardoned
state,
her, but technically she was under the
State.
federal employee because she was doing the,
well, but
Check.
she's,
State employee.
No,
Yeah, so
no, she's a state employee.
She was staying.
I know she's a state, but with it being a federal election now, I thought that's where it fell under.
Well, they're going through that fight,
That's what the fight
Okay,
is.
that's where the five cent versus
Right.
federal versus state.
because see, that's another thing a lot of people don't understand. There actually is no such thing as a federal election.
Oh, okay.
All 50 elections
Because the states run their
are
own,
run
right?
by the state,
Okay.
57, don't forget.
Oh, yeah.
Obama said we had 57.
Since last election,
but
Trump.
they're all state entities.
I think so.
And that's, some people say that's part of the problem, and I say, no, actually, that's a real good way to keep the feds from totally,
Taking over.
Yeah.
Taking control.
Yeah, because then they could really manipulate like they have
Well,
already in most of these. Just look at Georgia. Georgia just finally released. Oh gosh, we found 315,000 illegal votes in
Oh.
that in just one county.
Fulton County.
now you did hear what happened in New York
Or-
Tuesday.
Yeah, 2020.
No, it's 2020 election.
There's a suit now been,
They're just a few days behind.
there's a suit that's now been filed to force the state of New York to return $142 million to Rudy Giuliani.
Because his,
because it was confiscated because of his suit about the protesting the election. Well, now that all of a sudden these 300,000 plus illegal ballots
just
are
in
showing up,
one county.
it's kind of hard to, yeah, you know, it's like
It's hard to sit there and say, well, maybe he's just a crackpot. Well, 351 or 15,000 illegal votes in one county in Georgia. Just one county in Georgia. How many actually took place in more than just one county in Georgia? Probably a hell of a lot more than that.
well, not only
And
that,
not,
but
and not just there, you got New York.
I was going to say, you got
Michigan.
Georgia, which is a semi-red state.
Yeah.
So what happens in Minnesota and New York and Massachusetts and
Right, so these people that were disposing of these, and that's not, they weren't supposed to be disposed, they're okay. There's nothing wrong with disposing of
She
things
going
that are
back,
supposed
she going
She
back.
going back.
to. I just can't get over that.
well,
Yeah, she's the one in jail.
And it's okay, but they those guys that were like, let's
See,
put them to
breaking
the
the law.
as best
Yeah.
we can.
The ones who were breaking the law.
Was
They
for
gotta be
destroying instead of security.
Your
important point is,
Yeah.
of, what should be the headline of 2026 is Republicans sweep the midterms.
Mm-hmm.
I love that headline, but I don't think that's actually gonna happen because people are still like hurting from the cost of living. I think the cost of living would have to fall like at least 20%.
I think by the time people get their tax returns and see what
That's
happens
what's gonna-
because of the big
that's
beautiful
gonna be the-
bill.
That's going to be the
I
key.
mean, seriously,
Tax return time.
there are
Because when people start, because he's talking about people getting $11,000 to $20,000 additional,
to what they
what they
what
wouldn't
they
have
expect
as
to
being
get.
able to deduct that money. You'd be surprised what kind of return that makes, and that gets more people's attention.
Right.
When the president signs this bill and puts it in law, and all of a sudden he says, "We're going to fix these things, but first thing we do is I'm going to fix the taxes," and that actually happens. That's going to be the big thing. People don't understand. They keep saying that the cost of living is not coming down fast enough. Unless you're living under a rock, go down the street and buy gas.
Yeah.
Oh, gas is definitely cheaper.
Or go to the grocery store and buy a dozen eggs. Because this time last year, a dozen eggs were 3 times what they are
Do you all
now.
remember?
Down the milk.
Well, there's a reason why.
$6 a dozen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was ridiculous.
The government did it, so they mandated that they killed all the birds.
We would not
One
have
bird
eggs
gets
on
sick,
this
the whole flock,
Christmas.
kill a whole
I
flock.
enjoyed it.
That's stupidity. That's like, well, I got freaking sore thumb. Let me freaking cut my leg off.
I got converted from being a liberal to a conservative when Reagan's policies, financial policies, had a benefit to me. And I woke up and I said, whoa, this is great. I'm a conservative. I probably was a conservative all along, but now I am definitely a conservative. And I think you're going to see the same thing happen when in the spring, when people file their taxes and they're getting huge returns.
Well, and also when you've got people that, that are working overtime and live on
No
tips
taxes.
that are
Yeah.
no longer, starting January 1, will no longer have money withheld.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what my big concern is on all this, is what you're saying is true, but I think there's a general feeling that people do not associate Donald Trump with the Republican Party. They'll
They don't.
say, he's one character, and when he's gone in, the Republicans are not going to carry my interest.
Well, I
Well,
think
but
that's
see-
the reason. I think that's the reason why he rescued J.D. Vance as fast as he did, was to get him out of the Senate swamp.
But you follow where I'm going.
Oh yeah, I totally understand.
No, well, you're right. And that's why a lot of Republicans did not do well this year in elections.
Well, they were in
Because-
blue states.
Well, yes, there was.
Well,
mistakes.
everywhere, and
But
look
they-
at the turnouts. People, were so excited about it's everything what we tell people and we teach here as people involved in the party. When you elect someone, that's when the work starts.
Right.
And the human nature is people elected Trump and they're done.
Yeah,
And they
Done deal.
We
Yeah,
need
that's-
local people to work on that. We need to elect the right people to go to DC to at least minimize the damage.
We need people we need people at the local.
Yes.
We
I was
need
thinking
at
local,
state
that's what I'm
level, state and your local local county levels fix the problem. The White House cannot fix the problems of Greenville, South
No one
Carolina.
can fix anything.
They can't fix Parkland, South Carolina. That is a responsibility to citizens in those areas to stand up and say, we are sick and tired of you doing the things you think you want to do because you're getting your pockets lined by such and such.
Well,
Nobody's holding them accountable when they commit a crime. They accept money. It doesn't matter if it's a penny. They accept money of any kind or any other gratuity just to get them to vote one way or another. That's a bribe, period. And we need to start putting those people that commit these crimes, the bribe, take a bribe. We need to start holding them accountable that you've committed a crime that most other people would go to jail for under
Well,
any other circumstance.
Right, and how do we make that happen, right? It's
We-
the same circle. Number one, we elect the right top elected officials, mainly Attorney General, who will go after his friends,
Yep.
regardless
Regardless.
whether they're friends or not friends, whether they do right or they do wrong. You go after the
and the
the
same
bad
thing
deeds.
in South Carolina with separate solicitors.
right,
Yeah.
same
You
thing.
know, there's gotta be-
Solicitors,
Your
And
solicitors at the
It's
local
not
level.
personal.
how
It's
well,
not
it
personal,
is.
it's
I mean,
law.
that's
I
when
don't hate you. I don't hate you, but you
I
broke the law.
have learned it the hard way. You just, if you want to make friends in politics, you get a dog.
Dog, yeah.
Politics
Well-
are not, and
Or
not
cat.
to mean to offend anyone, but
Cat.
I have had to tell myself that so many times now, because you think you're making friends, but then people just go after
They'll stab
what
you in
they
the
want
back in a
to
flat minute.
go,
If it
and that's
benefits
just a lesson. Especially if you want to make a difference.
Yeah.
If you want to make a difference, you need to go up there with a mindset that nobody here is my friend. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to represent the people who sent me here. They're my friends. They're the ones that voted for me. They're the ones who care what I do here.
Right.
And I don't care what you do on the other side. That's your responsibility. How you act is your responsibility. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to turn around and kowtow down to this person just because he's in the same party with me and he's trying to be buddy with me. No.
And then
So
another
what is she
piece,
running for?
he has few ideas.
Yes.
That's another thing, right?
Running
We,
for State House.
we have to find candidates.
After that.
Because we can be complaining about our attorney general not going about the bad guys. We can be complaining about the bad guys getting reelected, but unless we have good candidates, well,
Exactly.
who's going to get reelected? Someone has
Well,
to do.
the other big point or problem is our education system
Mhm.
has spent the last 40 plus years teaching each generation that the only thing important in government are the bright, shiny things that happen in Capitol Hill.
Mhm.
I've been amazed to talk to college graduates that wonder why I go to Raleigh to work on legislation. How do you work on legislation not going to DC?
Yes.
It's where it's-
Well, guess what? More of it happens at County Square.
Yes.
It happens in DC by far.
Yes.
But we experience the same thing because that most of your voters
Well,
look at national versus local.
here's
No
the
clue
other,
what's
here's
going
the
on
other
there.
way you
I mean,
fix
look-
the elections though, in this state and any state across the country.
Okay,
You take money out of it.
I agree.
I mean,
There should be
we go to
no, there should not be these politicians get elected, especially like the Lindsey Grahams and these idiots who have such war chest of money
Yes.
that nobody can run against because you ain't got the money.
Did you hear the news about Lindsay this week, by the way?
Probably not.
No.
Kickbacks from Ukraine.
Not a surprise.
That's not really a surprise.
Not a
Well,
surprise.
but no, Tulsi Gabbard has actually taken the information and it is now in
It's
the
turned
hands
over
of
to
the
them.
Department of Justice.
Well,
Yes.
And that's the
Really?
big problem.
But again,
that
he's got so much money, I really doubt
But
anything will happen to him.
We have an attorney general in the United States who is not prosecuting the crime.
Oh, yes, she is.
You
She is.
can't look
Yeah.
at, she's been there for a year.
Yes.
You can't build a case against somebody in a week.
No.
It takes a long time to get all the information together, unless you got like such a slam dunk case, like this person went out and murdered somebody. You got the evidence, they admitted to it, you got the gun, you got their fingerprints, you got blood all over them. Unless you got that kind of evidence, no, you got to put it, you got
I've
to build
got-
it all together.
Her position is managing the Department of
Yeah.
Justice.
And-
Not going after individual criminals. She is trying to manage the people in place and get them on track.
And the problem
And
is
the ones you find there is where she's running into a problem.
less than 30% of the appointees into the Department of Justice have been confirmed.
And
Yeah,
that's where the Senate needs to say, that's where the Senate needs to say, okay, this daggone nuclear, we're going nuclear option at this point.
They
Well,
need to.
but they can't, because that would hurt
No,
Lindsay.
no, well,
It would hurt him
I
because
heard
now,
Lindsay, but it wouldn't matter because if we do away with filibuster, everybody says, well, we can't do that because we have to maintain some sense of order.
Well, I
As
tell
soon
you
as
what,
the Democrats get in charge, everybody says,
Sure.
well, as soon as Democrats get in charge, they're gonna do away with it.
they
Has,
will do
has
it.
everybody forgot? Read what he did
Reed
for Obamacare?
did it, Reed did
He
it.
did
well,
this
Reed
deal
did it
Obamacare.
for federal judges.
He did
Yeah,
it
he
for
did,
federal
but he also
judges.
did it for Obamacare.
And he was warned that it's gonna turn around and bite then, and it
Never did, because the Republicans never
But now
tried.
the Republicans are not being forceful enough. You're right.
Well, the problem is we have too many Republicans in the U.S. Senate that aren't really Republicans.
Exactly. And Graham's one of them.
Ran them pretty much to the majority of them.
So that goes down now to each one of you and your personal goals for 2026 when it comes to politics. What's on your to-do list?
I'm gonna unseat my settings House Rep.
There you go.
I'm gonna take his job.
To help
There you
elect, mine is to help elect the true
Anyway, he's
constitutional
just holding
president
position
of the
until
U.S.
the
Senate
day
of North Carolina.
Agriculture Commissioner retires. That's all he's holding position.
Yep.
He's keeping his name out there just for that reason.
Can get more people involved in precinct 1. Besides me and Ron and.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
That would be my other thing. I live predominantly Democratic.
That's a great goal.
Aside from our representative in, I guess, about 6,000 people, precinct 1, only 3 of us have been.
And that, again, to remind everyone, that goes back to the, if we want to elect a new person, how do you do it? You have to have members in your precinct to go, well, they don't have to be in your precinct, but
Yeah.
if they are, that's better, right?
Get them out there.
It's preferable to have people from your precinct.
Right.
Because, oh yeah, I see you at the grocery store all the time. You know, why are you doing this? So there's a recognition which has a whole lot more value than a stranger knocking on the door that you never see.
And that, yes, and that, to take it one step further, that is how a lot of us, I think generally people like to complain about the politics in Washington. They can scream at the TV, complain, but they don't have to face the neighbor in the grocery store and ask them why you're voting this way. Because it's much harder to go to someone face to face and make them feel uncomfortable. Not that politicians care, maybe they do, but ask them directly, like, you know, I do not appreciate how you voted. Why did you do it? I don't want you to do it again.
Yeah.
But it's easy to yell at TV, right? I was telling someone this week, I don't remember who it was, I think my mother-in-law, that you would not believe people will call here at the office with the biggest profanities, yelling, screaming, and, you know, we learn how to deal with it. But who has the time or energy to look up the number, dial the number? And no, they're not our, like, what we call people that, fellow Republicans that just don't like us to try to play tricks on us. No, they're deranged people. I mean, either Trump or Republicans. But who would dial a number for a random person, because you don't know who's here, to just scream at them and curse at them?
It's easy to scream at somebody you don't know or vote.
Exactly.
Because you don't have to face them.
Right, exactly.
If you have to face somebody after you run your mouth and show yourself to be an idiot, you're gonna think twice about it.
Right.
I always
Well,
feel
the other thing is that I think it's really hilarious that we look at the polling numbers or we look at the polling post-election and you see what the turnout was. Oh, it was 22%, 28%. And then you have these people who bitch and whine about they're not doing this or they're doing this or they're doing that. And I usually ask them one question, I said, did you vote? No. And shut up, you got nothing to complain about.
Yep.
You didn't vote. It's your own damn fault.
So
You asked for it.
two points to that. Again, number one, what we call people keyboard warriors, right? When they call, they're not keyboard, but it's why people don't want to meet like with us, or that's what I've learned in the last year. If you ask me to go and face a friend and tell them that they hurt my feelings, or they're not being fair, or they're spreading untruth about me or my husband 2 years ago, I would never do it. It was just not in me to go and face someone.
But see, then you became a citizen, and now you can.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe I needed that.
I observed the difference.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. A little piece of paper, because now, or maybe it just gets too much, right? Maybe because Jeff got sick and finally I was like, okay, enough is enough. I don't know what happened.
But you were, at that time, you became fully invested as a citizen in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad part of it is, we have way too many native-born Americans that don't participate. They don't, and again, back, people just make rail about education for years. And it goes back 44 years ago, Thanksgiving. My dad looked across the room at my brother and I, and he said, boys, the national government tends to destroy this country through the public education system. He was a secondary education professor right out here at this little Furman University place when it was still a conservative school. But he was one of 32 secondary ed professors across the country who was contracted to review the first ever U.S. Department of Education secondary school curricula guidelines. The law forbade them from being involved in curricula. So what the national government did was they established curricula guidelines, and then they tied the grant money to adherence to the guidelines, not the curriculum. And he said, it's simple. This country became the greatest country on God's green earth because every community accepted their responsibility to teach the next generation to be the best they could be. And that's whether they're going to be the best brain surgeon or the best ditch digger. But the key to public education was to give them that basic foundation to work from. And what we've watched happen over the last 40 years, when you're seeing major cities in this country that are spending $30,000 a year to put out per child for school, and you've got less than 20% that can read proficiently. When you've got high schools in a city like Chicago where there's not a single 10th grader that reads at proficiency level.
Sad.
I mean, and it hasn't been done by accident.
No, it was done on purpose. Yes.
And it's continued to deteriorate because that was actually this was the Communist Manifesto back in the beginning of the Soviet Union, was that just give me a little bit of time, I'll get the younger generations. And that's how they did it. They did it through the education system without firing a shot. They turned around and started poisoning the minds of the children and poisoning their mind to the point where they think that the government's supposed to take care of everything for you. Everybody's become so enamored with what's the government going to do for me? Why don't you get up off your butt and go out there and do it for yourself?
Well, the other problem has been that it has been the aim, and very efficiently, for the education system to remove the parents from the schools. When I was a kid, I know I'm old as a
church from the school.
But when I was a kid, we usually had one or two room mothers in the school, in the classroom every day. And it's one thing my mom did. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Well, she used to do like a day a month where she spent the day at her elementary school.
The big problem, and you guys said it in different ways, but the American public has abdicated the education of the children to the government.
Oh, that was the whole plan.
Now, I have heard people complain about the Greenville County public education system, that it's not any good, you gotta go to private schools and stuff, but I stopped them real quick and said, look, my son got a mechanical engineering degree and works for Westinghouse, got a job and we've been with him ever since. He went through Hillcrest High School. Our daughter went to Hillcrest High School. She got into MUSC, okay, on the first attempt and doing very well, going to a public school. The difference is we got involved.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what's missing in parents.
It's the
I know
motivation.
some people are stuck with working 2 jobs and 3 jobs. Okay, I get it, but you cannot neglect your children.
Bingo. And there's been again, another piece of this thing that they've done is work every way they could to destruct the community.
Mhm.
You know, that's what,
Well,
that's
that in
what,
the family.
that
community
was,
too.
well, but still, a lot of it is when I was growing up, like I said, I know I'm old, but I was more concerned about the lady 4 houses down the street wearing my butt out if I did something in her yard than and then getting it doubled up on when I got
You
back
got
home.
home because your parents always found out.
Because guess what? She just got a phone
What's on
call.
the other?
My mom just got a phone call from the lady 4 houses down the street. That's why I'm saying that the whole thing has been to destroy communication within the community.
Well, I think in that aspect too, because my mother was a stay-at-home mother. And unfortunately, I bought into some of the lies that were sold to me growing up that I needed to have a career and all that. So I was not a stay-at-home mother. And if I could redo it, I would be a stay-at-home mother.
That's
I
one
would
of
have
the
been.
biggest reasons I hate that man that's right there on that TV screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we start, I got.
And luckily I got to work at home. So I was at home during the important years, but
Explain to me what you know about the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
I've been hearing a lot about
I
that.
want you to explain to me what you know about that, because it sounds to me like they're playing with the devil.
Yeah,
They are.
yes, they are.
It's just, and then that woman getting some kind of scholarship or grant from them, and she was teaching elementary students.
Well, again, it gets back to the situation.
Parents have to be involved.
Yeah, they do.
Most people think that we couldn't operate schools without federal money. And I can tell you this has been my juggernaut for 12 years now. How much of your K to 12 education budget comes from the federal government? Does anybody know?
Small amount.
It's about nine. But it's less than 10. And I'll never forget the first time I learned that. I was when we were fighting Common Core. And I came home and I went into a meeting there was a group of educrats standing outside of the committee rooms in Raleigh. And this lady, I heard as my dad used to call it, the phrase that pays, and that is, there's no way we could run these schools without the national government. And I stuck my head in the circle and I said, ma'am, excuse me, but do you know how much of your budget your K to 12 budget comes from the national government? And I always get funny looks because my daddy taught me we lost federal government under Lincoln, so we'd have a national government. And all of a sudden, these 6 people just went silent. And have you ever asked a question in a group of people where all of a sudden everybody's looking around, everybody else wondering who's going to answer the question, and nobody's going to answer the question because nobody knows the answer?
Right.
So I came home that evening and I went to that magic box in my office where you put questions in and it actually gives you somewhat answers. And I just did a simple search. K to 12 education dollars, federal dollars by state. And amazing, I was 2 years old, which is typical for national government statistics. But at that time, we were getting 9.4% on the statewide average in the state of North Carolina. Well, I'm an old equipment salesman. And it used to be the roughest time of the year was October, November, December. Because every project that you had been working on that didn't get funded that year, you got a call from the engineer, purchasing guy, whatever. Can you please do me a favor? Can you get me a budgetary quote so I can try and get this in the budget for next year? Now, does everybody know what a budgetary quote normally is? Plus or minus 10%.
If you're lucky.
So basically all of a sudden it was like this light went off. It says, we are surrendering the most valuable asset in this country for what most of us in the real world consider to be a rounding error.
Yeah, but you know what the worst part of that problem is? That money gets sent, like you were talking about before, things are administered by the state. So like in this state, the money goes to Columbia, and they decide which school district is going to get what percentage of
Then
that.
they break it down.
So then you got so much politics involved. You better rely on your own actor base from your community to take care of your education. They may not get that federal money as small as it is.
And how much do we trust our state superintendent?
Zero.
See, that's the problem. They do nothing at all.
Right.
Like our Greenville County girls
Right.
are saying,
I wouldn't.
we have no idea what they're gonna do.
I mean, our current superintendent of education got master's degree in 6 months.
Yeah, they're really working on it.
She's a genius.
I thought it was
Are you
6 weeks, but
Was that on?
6 months.
It was on hold
Yeah.
in 6 months because when she filed, I guess, I don't remember the timing, she didn't realize maybe to be the superintendent of education, you had to have master's degree.
Yeah.
So they made it happen.
Something that,
Well, she was also chairman of the EOC prior to running
Yeah.
for superintendent.
Right.
So she had the inside track on everything that was going on in that whole.
So just-
And how did she start in politics? She was intern for Jim DeMint
yeah.
And when-
Part of the mystery.
just a big
and
thing.
funded Palmetto Promise Institute.
And here's,
And how much time did she spend in the classroom, by the way?
probably
And
none.
one-
3.5 years, what was it?
Zero.
Zero.
Oh,
Zero.
no, zero.
No education, no
But she
education.
is in charge of every public school student in our
And
State.
the problem that has developed in this country that people don't know is that we put all these stipulations on people running for these positions, saying, well, you have to have this as a background before you can run for it. It's like sheriff. Sheriff used to never have to have anything other than a citizen of the district that he wanted to be the sheriff of. Now you gotta have a daggum degree in criminal justice most of the time.
not in my state.
I'll tell you, and like if you wanted to be a magistrate judge, you gotta have a background, some kind of background.
judges here, I don't remember which ones, don't have to be lawyers.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. I think
No, local judges in North Carolina don't have to be
Yeah,
lawyers. either. That's how
magistrates don't.
the killer of Irina.
Yeah, a magistrate doesn't need to have it. Anything above a magistrate though, has to have a
To your point of the
district judges,
freedom
state judges.
from Religion
That's what's
Foundation,
wrong.
I don't know the whole background of it. I got to know it because of what we were posting on Signal this past week about the guy that ruined the school choice in South Carolina named Neil Mellon. And so I Googled really quick. It's so funny. The website, Freedom from Religion Foundation, they have this beautiful building, like a painting picture online. Maybe it's their headquarters. I do not know. But there is a sign on the building. It says, "In reason we trust."
In reason we
It's
trust.
just
In
like-
reason we trust.
I mean,
So in short, in the about section, it says the history of Western civilization shows us that most social and moral progress has been brought about by persons free from religion.
That's a lie.
So that gives you an idea what they're basically
Well,
organization
There is no
for
Western
any
culture without
and it's
Christianity.
social, whether it's they talk about modern time, first speak about prison reform, human treatment, mentally ill. Basically, they are there committed,
And
works an umbrella for those who are free from religion. And I committed to the cherished principle of separation of state and church.
I think they talk about all the reforms of the prison system.
There is no separation.
Mental health
So
system.
it was always
There's
like
more
that.
crazy people running around now. There's more criminals running around on the streets than there ever was.
If you don't understand Marx's concept of oppression, none of this makes sense. Religion's oppressive because you're being told what to do.
They operate.
Because you're expected to,
Just enough times
Exactly. You're expected to act. a certain
They're not,
proper-
they're not destroying the schools because they want to educate their children. They're destroying schools because knowledge is oppressive. Some people know more than others. Therefore, those
With the
therefore that have knowledge have control on people that don't. Therefore, knowledge is oppressive. That's why they're destroying schools.
But it's okay, we're gonna get you
I
straight and
question-
everything, will be okay.
I question these macro plans going on because socialism doesn't encourage it. What it does encourage is anarchy and chaos.
Oh, they do.
Master plans don't work well under anarchy and chaos. And I think that terrifies people even more because there is no. It's easier to comprehend a tyrant if you understand that there's still a tyrant involved. It's very difficult to understand you're only suffering because nobody cares. Maybe this tyrant may be, it's easy to say, well, I'm suffering because this tyrant hates me. It's hard to say, no, I'm suffering because the universe is a rough, mean place and there's no one here to help. And I think that's terrifies people into a lot of these theories, a lot of these conspiracy theories. Of course, there has to be someone pulling the strings. No, it could be just random evil. And you're a victim.
Well,
And the reason we started conversation for those of you that are not on Signal about the Freedom from Religion Foundation, somehow we started, how I got to learn what that organization was at all. It was back when Jeff and I started advocating for school choice in South Carolina. We met this guy named Neil Mellon, and he was all about it. He was I don't know whether he was a registered lobbyist, maybe an advocate. And he was all about it, and he had no implementation plan. So he wanted to work with us that we would implement the school choice, and he was going to take care of the legislative part, which was great because we were not around enough to know anything about South Carolina politics. Until the fall before the school choice was kicking off that January, we were at some conference, maybe it was CPA conference, just talking to people, introducing them about the program, tax credit program. And Neil came with his baby daughter, brought her, and we shared with him that we had, even though we could not start raise money for the kids until that coming January, and it was maybe October, we were getting pledges, basically commitment from, hey, comes January, Ray is committing to donate, a few $1,000s. Again, it's not some legal commitment, but we're making sure so comes January, you can do it. And Neil started telling us, just don't rush, just do it little by little. And I think at the time the program was maybe $6-7 million total. And we had in October, maybe $4 million in pledges. Again, start January, we still have to go and raise it, but we would then have these contacts who to go as a reminder.
Send an email and say, please.
Right. So Neil was like,
Neil
was like, well, 4 million. That's we don't want the first year. We don't want to meet full cap of 6 million. We want to do few million first year, and we're like, what are you talking about? The kids are waiting. There's so many kids, the whole 6 million is not enough. We're gonna meet the cap the first week in January. He's like, no, it's not how it works. We have to do it slowly, so there's more. We can go to the state house. I'm like, oh, we need to do it slowly so you can keep your lobbying job.
Yeah.
Because once the school choice is productive and there's just works itself, there's no more advocacy needed. That is where we said, you know what, Neil, you do your thing, we'll do our thing. And there's more to the story, how January we were delayed with starting because they didn't want to approve us because we had all these pledges. Anyway, it went fast. We kicked butt with it. Neil did not have any more of advocacy job because, again, when something is successful, there is no more need for advocacy, and that is how we separated our ways. In the meantime, somewhere there, Neil did share about his past, that he was atheist. He told me that. And that then we found this article, and he was a VMI graduate. Jeff was the Citadel, so they were kind of joking rivals. But in 2003, New Mellon got $1,000 check and award, student activist award by the Freedom from Religion Foundation for his successful legal challenge ending prayer before evening mass at BMI. So that was in 2003, 2002, I believe, 2003, maybe the lawsuits happened in 2002. So then the Citadel, Jeff always keeps saying, well, they don't pray before the mass anymore. I'm like, well, why? Because of that, right? Citadel
because it set a precedent, and therefore everybody falls in line.
Correct. So that guy gets rid of prayer at the Citadel, where we're talking about South Carolina. So today the cadets, I think they do like a moment of silence or something, whatever. But they don't pray because of this guy. And this guy was hired in 2005 by South Carolina Policy Council. All these big people that call themselves, Christians, and they do so much for our state. They hire a guy who got rid of the prayer. And just recently, it was infuriating to me. Our current lieutenant governor, post a picture. She's visiting a school somewhere in Colombia, a Catholic school, I think. So he's an atheist, but he sends his children to Catholic school. I'm confused. But she posted a picture, our current lieutenant governor, who is Catholic, by the way.
And who is running for governor.
Who's running for governor.
She posted a picture visiting a school, San Jose in Colombia. I'm zooming in, and New Mellon is in the background.
Yeah. And
I'm like, he got rid of the prayer not at the Citadel directly, but because of him. How can you even show up?
At a Catholic
But
school.
she got the,
Right.
Did she get something from that group, from that freedom from religion?
I'm not sure. I don't have information, but this is just like how,
It could be backdoored from
Some other.
the politics, right? And someone said, oh, he must be connected. You know what? I don't care. If you have any morals, and I'm going to just speak from like my experience, I don't know how can you. I went to dinner with him and his wife and all. And after that, it was just a bizarre story because we got to know him and his kid and his wife. And then you're like, start to read. And not that I'm going to like discriminate about someone's past, but this is a big deal. This is not a failed financial transaction that they try to keep it, use against Jeff all the time, or some being fired from a job for something. This is your moral. You're making an impact on generations, on all our cadets.
Well, it goes back to what this gentleman said, and that is morality is oppressive, so you can't be holding people to a moral expectation.
Correct.
I graduated from high school in 1974, Parker High School, right over here. It used to be across town. I never went into a classroom in the 12 years I was in public school that did not have the Lord's Prayer up on the wall.
And American flag.
Oh, yeah. And every day, I'll never forget, first grade, Jefferson Elementary School in Sherman, Texas. Every day, the next student or the next two kids, one to lead the pledge and one to lead the Lord's Prayer. And we said it every day.
Right.
And to me, that's when you talk about where the foundation started to be destroyed. That was it.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to walk up to 20 kids now and ask any of them if they could recite the Lord's Prayer.
So when I'm going
Or
to, close with this, when some people try to say, oh, people don't want to come interact with Greenville GOP because of this, because of personality. No, they don't want to interact with us because we have so much information. And not that I would challenge Lieutenant Governor, in a public forum, but if opportunity comes, of course, I'm going to ask her, why are you working with this guy? Like, why? And there are many other things I would ask. That's why they're not coming around. It has nothing to do with any personalities. It's like
something you brought up, talk about precedent. Because somebody made a judgment and they made a decision on a law and applied it, and now everybody thinks they have to apply their way of thinking because of what this one judge says. This is the precedent. No, it isn't. That's his opinion on what that law states. It's not precedent. It's his opinion. That's why you have multiple judges in multiple jurisdictions to interpret what the law is for their area. Why would the Citadel need to cancel out because of VMI was in Virginia? Don't.
Well,
They did it because they kowtowed down to.
Because they got a really mean letter from somebody.
That's it. They kowtowed down instead of standing their ground and saying, we are not in Virginia. We don't abide by what that judge in Virginia says. We are in South Carolina. You go find a judge in South Carolina who will say the same thing, then we'll consider.
Well, my bet would be, though, they probably elevated it to a federal suit.
Doesn't matter, state law still supersedes federal.
Uh,
Even federal precedent.
I totally agree with you,
Even federal precedent.
except most lawyers don't.
I know.
Most people think that the supremacy clause is on. The supremacy clause only affects things that are specifically assigned to the national government in the Constitution.
Yep.
And that's what, that's one of those things that has been lost, again, partly because of the education system.
Because federal government got into the education system, which was never their purview in the first place. It was never.
There's a reason the word education appears nowhere in the U.S. Constitution or Declaration of Independence.
That is a state's issue. That is a local issue. How you educate.
Just like
how
really,
it benefited you in your area.
most people don't know that there were states that still had state-sponsored religions up until the 1850s. And amazingly enough, none of them had legal action that caused them to disband.
All right, 12:48. We have talked longer than I ever anticipated.
Fabulous job, Olga.
I'm just enjoying listening. Right, did you have
I think we should give Olga a hand for that.
Oh, no. It's you doing the talking, so that was my plan altogether. Right, did you have an update?
Monday, I got to go to Senator Vernon's Christmas brunch.
How did that go?
I enjoyed it. I got to meet a lot of legislators and a few other key people. I shared some business cards. Saw Lee Bright. He was there. I asked Cash why he thought Corbin didn't vote, and his response is, you need to ask him. I asked Verdon.
Interesting.
Verdon says it's the status quo mentality that he suggested he needs to help work with some of these people getting their minds out of just go with the status quo and cruise. He says, and then he was using a sport analogy about being able to pivot. But I enjoyed it. Got to talk and share business cards with several people over there. I finally got the flyer put together for March, so my socialist trilogy is complete. I have copies of it as you walk into the door. The QR codes. Again, the 5th, which is only a week and a half away, will be socialism, what it is and how to recognize it. Week 2 will be how it's infiltrated the church, and I think a lot of the talk that's been happening today will come up, not necessarily word for word, but a lot of these ideas will come up in that talk. And then in March, I'll end it with how to address some of these issues. But again, and I've said this before, but the real thing is it's easy to point the real radical socialists out and what they're doing, but the problem is we're doing the same thing.
The mechanical socialist.
We're creating an environment that's allowing things we shouldn't allow, and so they're able to just chip away. It's not like they ever come in and just grab the whole thing. They just keep chipping away, because even the most conservative of us have a hard time realizing what's going on. And so if you come to this and you're not insulted, I apologize. Please tell me what I did wrong, and I'll make sure that I
So that's the idea, you want insult, is that it?
No, it's not his
Well, yeah.
intent, but
you have to look. Like
Have to look inward
it's like Michael Jackson saying, if you want to make the world a better place, start with the man in the mirror.
in the mirror. Okay. So I'm gonna be offended before I leave. Good.
And Peter says, if you want to make the world a more prettier place, start with your bedroom. So it's like you got to figure out.
Start with your face.
You got to get the plank out of your eye before you can fix the speck in your neighbor's eye.
You're exactly right.
And that's one of the things that I'll talk about on month 2. Socialists want to tell you to take the plank out of your eye. They don't want you to hear the line that says, then you can take the speck out of your neighbor. That's one of the many ways socialism's infiltrated. They love Christianity. It's actually a corruption of Christianity. That's going to be one of my premises. So they love Christian teachings as long as you only understand part of the Christian teachings. They love the part about forgive your neighbor 70 times 70. They don't love the part about at some point you just need to walk away from these people because they're toxic.
Right.
So they're very selective in it. So anyway.
and forgiveness is based on repentance, which requires change. So
They want you to forgive and not have to worry about the repentance.
Forgiveness allows you to break a toxic relationship.
Right.
Because hate and love are the same thing. Forgiveness allows you to break a toxic relationship. It does not mean you have to reform that toxic relationship immediately after.
Forgiveness is one step. Restoration is the next step. Or no,
Repentance.
well, no. What are the 3 steps? And I should know this by heart. Forgiveness is the first step in the whole process. You can then reconcile or not. And if you reconcile, then there could be restoration or not. So the fact that I have forgiven someone is commanded by God, but it doesn't mean that that relationship is ever going to be the same or better than it ever was.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 separate steps.
Biblically, forgiveness is for yourself, not for the other person.
Yes.
Yeah, you turn everything over to God, who's going to deal with it anyway. It takes the bitterness out of your own home.
I see it when people come to me with relationship problems. Forgive and forget. So you need to forgive. You don't need to forget.
No.
Because love and hate are the same thing. It's just a different person. It's really about perspective. They're both forces that unify you to another person. Forgiveness allows you to break that bond of hate. And then you're free to choose to either reestablish a relationship if the person is worthwhile, or to walk away from that person if the person is just too toxic.
Well, one of the things my dad raised me with was always trust your fellow man until he gives you one reason not to. And then be careful how you evaluate that one reason, because from that point forward, it's on you.
Mm-hmm.
Trust but verify.
Yep.
In God we trust, everyone else pays cash.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, anything else? Anyone has anything to add? Share? Big plans for New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve is
Party hard with dancing.
New Year's Eve is amateur night. So those of us that are professionals stay home.
Yep, we're the smart ones.
Yep.
We learned from years of doing stupid stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, we will be at the Infusion Center on New Year's Eve, so that will be our New Year's Eve, but that's okay. It's one
And
step
we will keep
closer.
praying for you.
One step closer to full healing. So that's just part of it. Don't feel bad for us. It's okay. It's actually a good time to it's a slow time in the year. So it works out. We can take care of things without Jeff being here. So
Hopefully
as good as we can.
it's out of the healing.
Yeah. Right. So I'm going to close this, I guess, with that. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you next year, I guess. Next Friday we'll be here. If Jeff's going to be here, I don't know, but I will be here.
Me too.
Terry will be here. Yay.
Terry will be here on my own vacation.
So we're coming if Terry is here.
No, I gotta work 4 hours.
Terry has been
Yeah, I gotta
working
work
hard.
today.
So happy New Year, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
All right.